Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sipurey Maasios. We are learning the Maasio of the Cripple. So, without further ado, let me just share the text, and let's see what it is we can get out of it. Um, so, the cripple is in the wagon, and he he has the secretary, he has the driver, the wagon, the wagon itself. Um, all these things, all these things symbolize this union of the cripple is said to represent the neshama um, before it comes into a body. And during that particular time, it has no ability to walk. It only has the ability to stand. As we have learned that the angels, the malachim, they don't have the ability to progress. That's why it says, "V'natati lecha ma'alachim ben ha'omdim ha'ela," and I gave you a progression, a movement amongst all the standing, all the malach, the angels who are standing. So here we're talking about the neshama. The neshama gets sustenance from its brothers. It gets sustenance from the avodas the tzaddikim as it gets ready to get down to the world. As of yet, it does not have its own merit. And once it puts some stuff together, when it is ready to actually sustain and get into this world and thrive and work for a living, as it were, on its own, then it says, why should I get, you know, sustenance? Let me do my own business. This is a principle, a very central principle in creation, whereas Kadosh Baruch Hu created this world, the next world, so that because when a person gets something which he doesn't deserve, he is ashamed to look at the face of the one who gives it to him. It is called Nama de Kisufa. It's called bread of shame. When you work for something, and what you get is a salary, you get a tremendous amount of satisfaction from it. So when the neshama is, that's why they said that it's a higher level of tzedakah to settle somebody, to help somebody settle in business, than actually to give him charity. Because in charity, he is embarrassed. And if you help him set up his own business, if you lend him money and he's setting up in his own business, this is preferable to giving him money. So this is represented by the cripple who cannot stand. His legs are weak. This is a repeating theme in this particular text, in this particular story. We find it again and again and again. As we'll notice later, you see that the moon has problems with its legs. Later on, you see that the demons, they have problems with the legs. And so because there is a principle that in this world, you the main nekuda that we are lacking, the main nekuda that needs to be built is the emuna. Emuna is the sphere of malchus, that sphere of the malchut, which upon which it is said reglai yadot mavet. The all the sefirot come down all the way down to from the Atzilut to the Beriah. The Malchut goes down to the Beriah, and from there, there can already be a yanika, can be a suction, a siphon of off of the shefa that comes from the kedusha to the chisanim. So the malchus is that interface, and this is represented with the legs. Quite a few things that have to do with the legs. The legs, the tzedakah is called legs. The people that listen to you are called legs. But ultimately, we're talking about emunah. That is the number one thing that needs to be built, and because the legs represent the involvement in worldly affairs. So when the thing is that, as we said, this is the fighting zone. That's the parquet. That's the playing pitch. Okay, that's the playing field, as it were, where you're dealing with business. You're going to Leipzig, to Breslau, to other of these places, and when you're in business and you're dealing with these worldly inyanim, you're dealing with something that is called spheras noga. This is the no man's land between the kedusha and the tum'ah, and there the situation is that the good and bad are mixed together. This is the primary state of a person in this world. Now, as you see, the Cripple say, in order to do business, in order to do the avodah that needs to be done in this world, so what he does, he takes himself a secretary and a driver, in a wagon, and these represent the intellect. They represent, the nefesh, the ruach, and the nefesh, and the body. These are the things that the neshama needs in order to interact and get whatever it is it can from life in this world. Now, it's also very important that he's going to a fair. Before he says Leipzig, and now he's on Breslau. Both these towns are towns in Germany where big fairs were taking place 3 times a year. Breslau more than Leipzig was the town of maskilim, of atheists, of people of the Reform persuasion. And at those times, the Jews were allowed to participate in the market, but they were not allowed to stay there. Jews were not allowed to live in Leipzig or in Breslau. They could only come to the fair, and then they had to leave. So this is analogous to the fact that the neshama comes to the world to do business for a very limited amount of time. Then it has to leave. And this is a very important recognition. In fact, this is usually the thing that gets lost the easiest while a person is younger, and that is that one loses the sense of the preciousness of time. It is basically a theoretical thing. you can hear young people either disregard it at all or pay lip service to the fact that, yeah, we're here for a limited amount of time. But basically, as Rabbeinu said, people basically feel when they're younger, that there is a club. There's a band of people who die. I don't belong to that club. That's usually it's the inner feeling. This is, they operate on this conviction, even though obviously everybody knows that the time is limited, but it's not evident in the way that people behave. So, as we said before, that they went. He says he's going to take these the Neman, the Agola, Balagola. This is okay. They're going to go, and they came to a krachma. They came to an inn, and the Neman said, "Let's sleep here." The intellect told him, be careful, and he became stubborn. He says, "No," he wants to go on, and it was a mistake. They came, and in the forest, robbers fell on them. And Dan Rabbeinu explains how this came about. We meet these gazlonim in different forms. Right now, we meet them. These are the kelipot. This is the tumah. Right now, we meet them in form of robbers. Later on, we meet them in form of demons. And then in form, also, as we can see, we meet them in form of landowners. Each time, and we see that there's one overriding principle that is working here, and that is that atheism and heresy are the source of all evil. They are the source that caused the Gazlanim, that caused the robbers, and they are the source of strength and sustenance for the demons later on. And you can see here how did these robbers became. How did they become robbers? How did it become as organized crime, or how was it organized? And this is done through deceit. That the chief Samach Mem came over there. Sammy came and announced who wants food, who wants money. It used to be in those times that whoever had food was a great deal. People were not, at least, that wealthy people, there were wealthy people, obviously, but it wasn't that common. Today, when you're seeing anything that has to do with commerce and business and whatever it is, so they say plain out, just money. You want money. The reason why you need to do this, you need money. Yeah, but they say again, the reason why and then they say, you have to deal honestly and you have to strive for excellence. The reason why you have to deal honestly and strive for excellence, according to their shita, is because that's the way it actually works. In other words, when you give people something that is worthwhile, they will buy it from you and they will come back. But basically, the name of the game is still, what can I get out of it? They say you need to give them something of value, because if you don't, then the people won't buy from you. But what if you can get the people to buy from you and without giving them any value? Well, all the better, right? This is an outlook of a taker, somebody who is on the take. You got to give because otherwise you won't be able to take. But the name of the game is taking. The name of the game is not giving. This is the thing that typifies it as, that defines it as something that belongs to the Tuma. It reminds me of a famous adage that was said by Groucho Marx. And he said, the most important thing in life is honesty and integrity. And he said, if you can fake that, you got it made. So this is their point of view. In other words, you got to give them value. Why do you give them value? Not because it's the right thing to do, because that's the way you're going to get money out of them. So when he came to whoever wants food, some people came to him. He made it slightly. So whoever it is that he understood he doesn't need him, the chief rabbi said, no, you can work, you can be about malacha, you can do this. Only the smart guys. These are the guys he made robbers. It's a very important point because the intellect is a great seducer. And when you understand things, intellect can seduce you, and then there's pride involved, there's ego involved, and before you know it, you're embroiled in their business, and you're a robber, you're a killer. The main Indian over here is that people don't realize that the tumah and sin traps people. They think they're having fun. They think they're having a ball. They're living it up. They're living in the fast lane. They are, getting rid of pain, causing pleasure. Usually, when do people realize that they've made a grave mistake? When those things, those means of taking don't work anymore. And you realize that robbing, taking, if you take, you may have, but you will forever remain empty. If you give, you will get. And then you will feel satisfied. It sounds like, wow, man, you're so deep. This is marvelous. Okay. But what does it mean? We said it many times before. When somebody says, I deserve an apology. I demand an apology. How many times do you think these people are actually going to be satisfied with the apology that they got? Probably never, right? Because an apology that was extracted by twisting somebody's arms pretty darn hard feels empty, doesn't it? I mean, it's only when I told you that, that I was hurt, then you find then I want an apology, then finally you realize and you can, okay, it's the same thing. It's like we said, there's many times, and it can be, spouses of both persuasions and children, the ones that demand feel that they never ever got. And it's true. When you take, you never get. When you take, you only have. And if you don't get, you're always hungry. It's a very, very important thing. And the thing is that people find themselves robbers, they find themselves murderers, they find themselves, way out on a limb, all because they were hungry and they decided that the solution to hunger, the solution to hunger of any kind, so the hunger is to take. And it's not. It's only something that will affix in your hunger and your lack and make it a perpetual state. So here they said they said, let's take their money, and they fell on the son and in his cohorts. Now the Balagala and the one that could run, they ran, and he remained on the wagon. When there is a state of emergency and the person goes through hard times, so the intellect and the emotions, they run away. The neshama gets stuck with the body. Initially, when the neshama comes into the body and the intellect and the emotions, the nefesh and the body, they get into action. What happens is that the presence of the neshama becomes symbolic, it becomes hidden. We're not aware of the presence of the neshama. We are aware of our intellect, we are aware of our emotions, we're aware of our physicality, but we are not aware of the presence of the neshama. So when we are stuck in a situation that are not as comfortable, what happens is that the intellect and the emotions run away. They run away, they're looking their own solace. And it says they came, and the robbers came, they took the box of money. It says, why are you sitting? I said, he can't walk. And then they took the box and the horses. And he stayed on the wagon, and the intellect and the emotions, they went to wherever it is they ran. This is figured, they got into debt from pritzim, from landowners. Why should they come back to their houses? They might come back, they might be arrested, and so forth and so on. So let them stay to the place wherever it is they ran to, and they will become an intellect and a balagola wherever it is that they are. It is very, very common when we start the journey into Yiddishkeit, into Avodas Hashem, that we are very ideological. We're very fired up. We use the intellect, we use the emotions, we use everything, to serve in whatever it is, in the quest for Avodas Hashem. But at a certain point in time, we get disillusioned. Things don't work out that well. I figured, maybe I'll be a Rosh Hashiva, or I don't know what it is, and it didn't exactly work out that way. Or I realized suddenly that, when you're young, you figure that you can do anything. It's only when you get older that you realize that you got to make do with whatever it is that you do, and you see how, what's the best you can do with it. So the fact that you see people walking and they're actually far from Avodas Hashem, this is because the secretary and the balagala, the intellect and the emotions, ran away. They ran away. Let's open up a business. Let's do what you got. Listen, you got to do what you got to do. You took loans, right? Took loans from the pritzim. There's a need. You got to pay the bills. So what you do is they actually run away from the neshama. They run away from what it is that you need to do. And they find solace elsewhere, in business, working very, very hard. And once they're there, they're already building up new theories of why that's the right thing to do. They remain wherever it is they are. The neshama remains with the body. You still do mitzvahs, you still go to shul, you still daven. And it says, Kolzman, as long as he had food that he took with him from his house. As the neshama has whatever mitzvahs it was given. And lechem yavesha abagala, this is dry bread that was in the wagon. Was every single Jew will have nitzos de kedusha, the halacha of the basic things that you need to do. He ate them. And afterwards, when it was over and it was finished, he didn't have what to eat. In other words, that's it. What else do the neshama? What does the neshama needs to do? He thought, what is it that can do? Many, many times we find ourselves that we lived our dream, we lived our, not the dream, we lived our story, we lived whatever image that we have took upon ourselves in order to protect ourselves from the world and really get along. If it was the one of the intelligent intellectual, or the hard worker, or the bonhomie of a guy, one of the boys kind of thing, maybe cracking jokes and speaking really loud, whatever it is. But after a while, the bloom falls off the rose, and there's nothing what to eat. What do you do weiter? Things don't work anymore. So you pay a great amount, or a very steep price, for keeping on to your self-image as whatever it is that you figure yourself to be. But the neshama is hungry. The neshama is hungry. So when the neshama doesn't have what to eat anymore, when it feels the emptiness, he says, what should I do? And he threw himself from the wagon to start eating grasses. And he slept alone in the field, and he became scared. And whatever strength he already had was taken away from him. Then he couldn't even stand, only to crawl. And he would eat that grasses that was around it. As long as he could reach out and eat, he would eat. And then when he finished the grass around him, he couldn't reach anymore. He moved on and he would eat. And that's the way he used to eat grass for a while. We spoke about once before, and I think we need to touch this particular matter again. We pass different times in our lives. Certain times in our lives, we have expanded consciousness and things go well and we understand and we feel well. Things seem to go our way. And then what happens is that suddenly the boat is rocked. The boat is rocked. And what is the known gets challenged, especially when you get into Avodas Hashem. That which you know gets challenged, seriously challenged. Can be challenged with physical problems, can be challenged with illness, can be challenged with, family members needing care, can be challenged with discomfort and even pain. And it's a great test that we have to find ourselves in. And this is the time where you make the greatest profit than any avodah that you ever did. The Gemara says that it is better to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu 1 hour with the Yetzer Hara than 1,000 hours without Yetzer Hara. What you gain out of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you can't think, when you can't pray, when you can't learn, when you can't get out of bed, when you wake up and you only wish that you went back to sleep. Because at least when you sleep, you're shutting off the world for a while longer. And you can find yourself in a no man's land where your escape hatches betray you. And it feels even more bitter to remain in bed than to get out of bed. It's very much like people who get addicted to drugs or something like this, that it becomes so painful, the drugs don't work anymore. You can't live with them and you can't live without them. In a situation of great agony. We all get put into these tests every now and then, where there is no place to run. I mean, you can run, but you can't hide. At this point in time, the Holy Cripple is, which by the way is reminiscent of the beggar of the seventh day, which Rabbeinu does not talk about in the story of the 7 beggars, of the last day of 7 days that had no legs. And they said, the Rabbeinu says that Mashiach will tell that story. The idea in that particular junction is to throw yourself down, and then you realize where you are, there's grass. What? Yeah, there's grass. What does it mean? It means if you can hardly get yourself to davening, or you just open up a sefer and you can't wait to close it. If whatever it is that you do feels like bitter, just like the life is exceedingly distasteful. You taste bad to yourself. The idea is do whatever it is that you can and hold on. This is a very, very important lesson. If you want to make it sweeter, what you need to do is you need to accept and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the predicament that you're in. Embrace it. As we mentioned the past few times, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a loving Father that loves you and wants the best for you. B, everything in your life comes from Hashem. C, HaKadosh Baruch Hu experiences your distress more than you do. He's distressed. B'chol tzara osom lo tzar. He's not just, watching from above snickering or looking, or maybe even concerned. No, he feels it more than you do. And D, because Baruch Hu wants to fulfill whatever it is that you're lacking. If it's money, if it's health, if it's emotions, whatever. And still he doesn't, that means that he knows is the best thing for me. Now I have two choices. I can either whine and complain. Then what happens is I will still go through whatever it is I need to go through, because that's the best thing for me. But in addition to feeling the pain, I will also suffer. Suffering is optional. Suffering is what comes from not accepting what is going on with me, with surrender. If you actually manage to work it so that you want whatever it is that Kodesh Baruch Hu wants, and you thank Kodesh Baruch Hu for it, 99.99% of the cases, whatever distress, it'll just go away. And even if it doesn't, for as long as you need to go through whatever it is you need to go through, Rabbeinu says, then the suffering, the pain, the isurim that the person goes through, he says it's easy and comfortable to accept. Because there are two inyanim in suffering. We said it's the pain and it's the fact that I'm suffering. The pain is not easy. Suffering is impossible. Suffering makes you lose your head. It makes you do things that are desperate and inevitably the wrong things. People go through these things. The idea is throw yourself down. Okay, this is my state. This is where I'm at. Sometimes Rabbeinu says, "Batzar chaftali," that is within the time of the tsar, the time of the problem, the time of the distress, there are like oases of Moichin the Gadlus, of expanded consciousness. Whenever it is that you happen to find yourself in a state where you're in pain, when you're suffering, when things are very, very difficult, and you don't have the koyach to actually do what you need to do, and somehow you went through it, then you get to an oasis of expanded consciousness, and you go, you know something? I did it. It was very difficult for me, but nevertheless, I did what I did. And I got this in the bag. And I will have it forever and ever. I'm never going to lose it. I'm never going to lose it. If I had great trouble getting up in the morning and taking myself to shul, and when I put my tefillin on, I said, okay, oh man, now I got to daven the whole davening from Adon Olam all the way to, and then, and say every word. Well, can I just mumble the words and just get it over with? What's that? And you drag yourself through. And then you stand at the end of the davening. You take off your Rabbeinu Tam, whatever, and you realize you did it. You have a treasure that you paid for in blood, sweat, and tears. Shlomo Melech says, "After Rossi Amdali, my Torah has stood me a good stead." That's the thing that really worked for me. Whereas after us, I mean, even my Torah. So Chazal says, no. Torah shalamadati be'af, Torah that I learned in distress. That's the Torah that worked for me. That's the Torah that remained with me. Not the one which I was like, no problem, I got it, man. I'm sizzling. No, not that one. So what happens is that even when you go through a state of pain, there are those islands of Mochen the Gadlus. If a person is just into complaining and into whining, how miserable, into victimhood, when these oases come, the only thing you can do is, oh man, I feel a little better, but I can't believe I have to go through all this and whatever it is, and tomorrow's going to be again the same thing. If you are just staying there and going through this, it doesn't, in this point in time, you understand what's going on. You went off the wagon, you're on the ground, you're crawling, you're scared, you the only thing you can do is just crawl. You just hold on. We'll soon meet the oasis that it comes. And it's amazing how swift the transition is when from a state of yerida, of descent, of falter, you get to the highest madrega if you don't give up. This is what Reb Nosson says about this passing week's parsha, about the dream that the ladder of Yaakov, V'nei malachei Elokim oilim v'yordim bo. The angels of Hashem are going up and down in it. So Nosson says, these malachei Elokim, these are the Oivdei Hashem. This is you and me. He says, the ladder is, do you go up and you go down? And if you listen to the tzaddikim, they tell you when you go down that you understand that this is the part of the way it goes. You'll be there when your deliverance comes and you'll go up. But whatever it is that gives up, runs away, like the intellect and the emotions, the secretary and the driver, he finds some kind of a solution, which is really no solution. Let's find in the meantime somewhere to sort of like weather out the storm and forget about why it is that they came to this world for. And when the Yeshua actually comes, they're no longer there to be delivered. The part of the answer for everything that I said is we have a great, we have the greatest Rebbe. We do. And he is with us. He is with us. Rabbeinu is Chai V'Kayam, and you got to believe that he sees you, he feels you, he is giving you all the tikkunim, he wants to give you all the chidushim, all the chelka neshamas that there are in the world. He's right there with you as you're going through whatever it is you're going through. The main thing is just hold on. And whenever it is that you have a little, expanded consciousness, go, wow, I did it. I went through it. I did it. When I absolutely didn't want to do it. I couldn't wait until I would get out, and still I did it. Wow. And what if it'll come tomorrow again? So it'll come tomorrow again. The expanded consciousness will also come again. Until my time of deliverance will come, but it for sure will come. Ezrat Hashem, we will see Mitzvah Hashem next week. I want to thank each and every one of you for suffering my drivel. And no, not that. It's very Hashem's important stuff. Bezrat Hashem, we will meet on Thursday, hopefully conclude the Torah 20 in the Likutei Moharan, and be ready for the famous Torah 21.